This is a real treat to be with all of you. As I look at us, I'm seeing brilliant, radiant beings of light, and what greater joy can there be? It's just hanging out with such a group. So, thank you for being here, and let's dive into our subject, which is waking up the way of light. So firstly, what I'd like to say is this is not meant to be a intellectual or philosophical talk. I think all of us are experts already. We have read many books, we've listened to many talks, we've attended many events. A point comes when we want to really wake up. A point comes when we truly want to go beyond the ordinary truths. And that's where we are at here. So we don't want to just talk about waking up. We want to wake up. And so I welcome you to that, because as we get in tune with our pure intention to wake up, to engage with light from a very deep, heartfelt place, then something amazing happens. We can feel the response of the universe. We can see light responding. And then everything is different. We will be talking about things, but at the same time, we're swimming in this beautiful ocean of light. So I'd like you to start tuning into that right now. Don't wait for something to happen. Something is already happening. And so open up to receive the blessings of light that are present, that are gracious, that are abundant. And so, keeping that pure intention in mind, let's take a look at the topic at hand. So, what is waking up all about? I'll offer you a very simple definition of waking up. To wake up is to see clearly. To wake up is to see clearly. What are we talking about seeing? We're very familiar with seeing the material world around us. But the seeing I'm talking about here is seeing truth, seeing reality, seeing essence, seeing infinity. When we can see this clearly, we are in the awakened state. So it's as simple as that. And when we look at our own ordinary experience with light, if you step into a dark room, you don't see anything. But as soon as you turn on the light, you can see. And not only can you can see very clearly. Similarly, on the journey to truth, the journey to infinity, when we turn on the light, so to speak, we're turning on this inner light. So the light I'm referring to is transcendental light. This transcendental light is not something we perceive with our physical eyes, but we can very much perceive it with our inner being. So this transcendental light, when it's turned on, we can see truth more clearly. So the way of light is about consciously engaging with light, so that at every step of the way, it's lit up. Every step of the way is much smoother, more elegant, more beautiful. It's more of an unfolding revelation rather than wrestling with reality to squeeze out some truth. So the way of light to me represents, you could say, a much more refined, elegant way of being, where we can move towards truth very rapidly because we want it. We're no longer fighting it. We're no longer resisting it. We truly want truth. So the transition is very interesting. When you look at the soul's journey of evolution, for quite some time, we are enmeshed, entangled, entranced with finite reality. We somehow feel like this finite reality is fun, exciting, thrilling, and we want to play. And we do play. But a point comes when we feel like there's diminishing returns. We feel like somehow I'm not getting as much joy, as much fulfillment out of this engaging with finite reality. So there's an element of frustration, dissatisfaction, you could even say disappointment. Event after event, life after life, we start seeing that things are not quite panning out. And so we start looking for something deeper, truer. And our inner journey, you could say our journey of conscious evolution has begun at that point. And so you and I have been on this journey for quite some time, where we have already transformed quite a few things. We've transformed elements of our being. We've refined our ability to discern truth so that now we feel ready for something higher. And so the way of light is that. The way of light, it shows us every step of the way. So initially, it helps us see our goal much more clearly. Because when we see our goal very clearly, we are very motivated. We want to move towards it. We're willing to put effort. We are willing to surrender things which are not really supportive of that goal. So light illuminates the goal and makes it very attractive. As we look at the goal and where we are, we may feel like, well, I have to traverse this path to get to the goal. And at that point, light illuminates the path. It makes it more clear to us what is it we need to pursue to get there. And along the way, we can also see there's impediments, there's obstructions, and light makes it clear what those impediments are so that we can work with it. We can transform it, we can transmute it, and we can overcome it. So the obstacles, we can work with it with the help of light. We can release these obstacles. We can release energies that are not helpful. And this too is through the grace of light. So we're able to make rapid progress towards our goal. And every step of the way is deeply fulfilling. As we find ourselves closer and closer to that infinite nature of our being, we are increasingly motivated to share. And here too, light plays an important role, because light enables us, it really infuses us with this quality that we can share, we can embody this, we can radiate it, we can radiate this light in a powerful way so as to help all beings. So as you could see right from the beginning of the journey, right up until the end, light can play a dramatic role that will fundamentally change how we move towards truth and how we embody truth. So that's a little bit about how you can see light in the journey of evolution. I want to talk a little bit about when we look at reality around us. I mentioned that light is transcendental light. So how does it relate to physical light? So let's take a look at a simple view of reality around us. We see matter, very obvious. We can see that behind the matter, there is energy, subtle energy. And if you were to look beyond the energetic aspect, you would see light. So that's why it's transcendental light it's transcendental, super high frequency light that we're referring to when we say light. So you go from the physicality of creation to the energetic quality of creation to the luminous quality of creation. So the subtler the realm, the more powerful it is. So even though an aspect of us is on this physical realm, we are also at the very same time on the energetic realm and the realms of light. So we are literally, when we engage with light, we are engaging with a higher aspect of our own being. This is not something outside of us. This is something within us. So this applies when you look outside at reality as well as you look inside. You can look inside and you could say, this body represents just a superficial aspect of who I am. There's an energetic aspect of who I am. And then there is the light aspect of who I am. So we have this physical body, energetic body, and the light body. Once we understand this, even if it's conceptual in the beginning, we can engage with light knowing that it is a very intrinsic part of us and it's very close to us already. It is already baked into us, so we don't have to go too far looking into it. We develop our abilities to perceive light, and this perception starts developing, and we can start seeing light in bigger and bigger ways. So I want to pause here for a second. I was asked to share a little bit about my own personal journey, and some of you might find that interesting. So I was born in India. Currently, I live in California. I live in Southern California in San Diego. Perhaps some of you are joining from California, and I see people from all over the world. It's a real joy to see that. So even as a very young child, I was having these lucid dreams where I was seeing these patterns of brilliant, colorful light within my inner vision. And this would go on for a long time. Everybody in the house is sleeping and I'm having these dreams. And this light was very dynamic, interactive, and very intelligent. So I wasn't just watching, but I was actually engaging with this light. And I had no idea, of course, what was going on. And in fact, I really didn't think much of it. Even though this was a recurring thing, it would happen, many times a week. So this was just happening without me understanding what's going on. Excuse me. Fast forward to many years later, when I first tried to meditate. Let me grab a drink. as a teenager, I had read enough that meditation was appealing. So I started to sit down and meditate, and I felt like it was absolutely nothing was going on. All that would happen is I would close my eyes and I would look, and I would feel there's light within my inner sky. But that was just there. I didn't even think of it as anything significant. So my subjective experience was nothing is happening. And so another couple of decades had to go by when the intensity of light became very strong. So when I was especially doing longer meditations, it became as if I was going for a walk in a thunderstorm. And when you go for a walk in the thunderstorm, there's a lot of thunder and lightning, and there's a very good chance you're going to get hit by lightning. And so this was happening in my meditations. It was like I was getting hit by lightning every one of these long meditations. And it would last perhaps just a few seconds, perhaps. But lightning, when it hits you for a few seconds, it has a significant impact, let's just say, because every cell, every aspect of your being feels the light, is electrified by light. And really, you notice that in the presence of such powerful light, you cannot exist anymore as a separate being. The light is so powerful that if you try to deal with it as a separate being, it is too powerful and too intense. So what happens is eventually you realize there's only one way to do this, and that is to dissolve into the light itself. So eventually light takes you over. Light just consumes you, and you sort of become the light. You cannot be apart from light. So even with all these things going on, it never struck me that that light is playing such an important role in my journey until I met a wise being who pointed it out. And so sometimes even some of the very obvious things are not so obvious. And so to me, until this wise being pointed it out, it all fell into place, that light has been such an integral and important part of my journey throughout. In fact, as this being pointed out to me, even when I was born, this was a period of time in the year when the sun is ascending towards the north. So it's a particular festival in India. And I was named after the sun. So you could see there's some connection of light that was intuited even by my parents at that point. They named me after the sun. And so this connection continues. And a point came when light really, I would say, pushed me, guided me to start sharing about light. And that's why I'm here sitting in front of you, because it would be somewhat presumptuous of me to sit and talk about light. And I feel like the only reason I want to do that is because that's what light is wanting, for us to be together, for us to really drink the light deeply, and for us to deeply share the light with all of creation, with the planet. Certainly the planet is at a point of significant transformation, and that transformation can be eased with light. And so what we need is individuals who are able to be radiating this light, emanating this light, so that the frequency of the planet is increased easily without a lot of struggle. And so all beings are guided and are spared from a lot of suffering. So that's a little bit about my journey. We'll have some time for Q&A later on. But today I want to make sure I give you a good sense of what light is about, and also want to have us spend some time meditating so we can directly and deeply imbibe this amazing light. So what I'd like to do is pause now and hear some wise words from OSHO about light. So let's take a look at that.
Light is the most mysterious thing in the universe for many reasons. You may not have felt it like that, but the first thing about light is that light is the purest energy. Physics says that everything material is false as matter, real only as energy. Matter is dead. Matter exists no more. It never existed except in our conceptions. Matter appears, but it is not. Only light is our energy, our electricity. The deeper we penetrate into matter, less material is found. Deepest, there is no matter. And matter itself becomes immaterial. But light remains, our energy. Light is the purest energy. Light is not matter. And wherever we feel that matter is, only light is condensed. So matter means light condensed. So this is the first mystery about light, because it is the substratum of all existence. So in a new way, the oldest conception of religions, that in the beginning God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, becomes very much significant, because existence in its purity is light. So if existence begins, it has to begin with light. Another thing, light can exist without life, but life cannot exist without light. So life also becomes secondary. Matter simply disappears. It is not. It is only condensed light. Then light can exist without life. Life is not a necessity for light to exist. But life cannot exist without light. So life becomes secondary and light becomes primary. In this context, one thing more. Just as light can exist without life, but life cannot exist, just the same, life can exist without love, but love cannot exist. So these three L's have to be remembered. Light, life, love. Light is the substratum, the ground, and love is the peak. And life is only an opportunity for light to reach love. Life is just a passage. So if you are only alive, you are just in the passage. Unless you reach love, you have not reached. Light is the potentiality, love is the actuality, and life is only a passage. So when it is said that God is love, this love is meant. Unless you become love, you are just in between. You have not reached the end. Light is the beginning, love is the end, and life is just a passage.
Beautiful explanation there and a perspective on light. There is so many things one could say about the qualities of light and the role that light plays in the journey. In my book, Just Be, I talk about the journey of evolution as being comprised of three phases. And these phases are transcendence, integration, and embodiment. And these could be viewed from a macro perspective as well as from a micro perspective. So when I say macro, what I mean is one might have a journey of evolution where maybe 20 years of one's life was spent primarily in transcendence. And maybe a decade or two after that was spent in integration, and so on. So you could see large chunks of time focused on these phases. And that's the macro perspective. The micro perspective is that every time, every day, every moment, there's all these aspects at play. So if you sit down and meditate, there's a transcendence element. And maybe after the meditation, you do the dishes, you've got some integration going on there. And maybe later in the day, you're talking about some of these things with friends. There's embodiment going on. So you could see these things can be happening on a much finer time scale. So what are these things, and how does light affect them? Firstly, transcendence in a nutshell is, as the name suggests, transcending this physical level of reality, which tends to grab our attention, going beyond it so we can see something deeper, subtler, truer. So transcendence allows us to kind of extricate ourselves, even if for a brief period of time, and see something way beyond what the physical senses are able to show us. And transcendence is very important because it gives us increasingly our own direct experience of higher realities. And at the end of the day, that is very critical, because we are not, at some point, we're no longer interested in secondhand versions of truth. We want that direct experience. We want to be mystics. Every one of us is really a mystic because we are looking for that direct experience. And so transcendence is a key element of that. How does light play a role in this? Well, when we call upon light and work with light in our meditation, we find that these higher dimensions are more readily accessible because these higher dimensions require a refinement, and light helps us with that refinement. So we're able to go there much more readily, much more easily. And having gone there, to stay there is not easy either, because our finite concerns tend to keep bringing us back to mundane stuff. And so when we engage with light, it's as if light is able to hold us up and allow us to stay for longer and longer in refined planes where we can more readily see what's going on. So that's the transcendence aspect. By the way, I talk a lot more about all of these things in my book, and here I'm necessarily being very brief. The integration aspect, which some people have historically ignored, and it is very perilous to really ignore that, because without integration, we end up with lopsided development. So we can have an aspect of our being which is extremely evolved, and another aspect which is very primitive. And so you end up with a person, a being who is going to be acting in very imbalanced ways. So integration allows us to bring the light of consciousness to all the shadows. So the parts of us which are still not cooked, we can bring light and we can illuminate all the corners of our consciousness so that all aspects of our being are in the light. So we no longer have this lopsided development. That's the integration phase. Then, yet again, we might think, sounds like I'm done, but embodiment has its own importance, where embodiment is about being in this physical body. But even while being in the physical body, you are bringing that light, the highest frequencies of light, which I refer to as the light of infinity, specifically, because light is really, everything is ultimately light. You know, there is the planes of light, and energy is also light, and matter is also light. So you could look at it as light that is frozen light is matter. So since everything is light, I use the term light of infinity specifically to refer to that super high frequency, the most fundamental, highest, purest frequency of light that there is the light of infinity. So embodiment is the process, the phase where we bring this light, we hold it and radiate it on this physical reality. So in other words, we become walking beings of infinite light. And this is an important aspect of the phase because it's very beneficial, firstly, to the collective. Because awakening is never about an individual only. Awakening is really about the collective. And the individual has, of course, a special role to play because we are part of the collective. But ultimately, embodiment connects all the dots. It actually takes somebody, what looked like an individual's awakening, it turns it into a collective awakening. So the embodiment process is that process of, you could say, distributing the awakening, distributing the frequency of light, distributing high consciousness throughout the collective. So such a being is also an example, a model for other people to look at and be inspired, and somebody who can help the collective by their presence. So here, light emanation plays a big role, because one of the ways that such a being who's embodying infinity is helping the collective is by bringing huge amounts of light into the physical plane and radiating it out. So as you could see, light plays a very significant role in every aspect of this journey of evolution. So I know that's quite a bit to digest, but it hopefully gives you a good, solid, conceptual understanding of the overall picture of awakening. So now let's shift gears a little bit and let's go within, or at least deeper within. So at this point, let's step into the meditation portion of our time together. So I would ask you to close your eyes, relax. I'm going to be leading you through a series of specific practices. Each of these practices is designed to take you from the finite to the infinite, from the gross to the subtle. So we will do each of these practices for just a brief amount of time, but that itself is enough to bring about a shift in consciousness. And we will eventually, after several practices, we are going to shift into a guided meditation. And we'll have that for some period of time before we have time for questions. So let's get started. As you relax, drop into your heart. Feel the softness, openness in your heart area. And in your own words, you can express your intention for waking up, for engaging with light. And you can already feel tremendous light in you, around you. Feel into that. It's as if you are sitting under a waterfall of light. Let that light cascade throughout your being. And since we have all come together with this common intention, there is a tremendous power. It's as if the light is amplified many-fold as each one of us opens our heart and steps into the light. There's an increase in light for all of us. And you can feel that right now. Now let us practice alternate nostril breathing. Some of you already are familiar with this. To do alternate nostril breathing, if you need to, you can open your eyes to see what I'm doing. You can close one of the nostrils with your thumb. Inhale through the other nostril. Hold briefly. Exhale through the other nostril. So let's say you inhale through the left, exhale through the right, and then inhale through the right and exhale through the left. So let's do that for a minute or so. You can see just within a minute or two, the body is settling down. Physiological processes are settling down. Now we're going to practice another technique for a couple of minutes. So you can put your hand down and we're now going to mentally repeat the words I am. You can keep repeating that at a pace that feels right to you. If you prefer, you can repeat the word Om. The sacred word Om is also fine, whichever you prefer. Simply mentally repeating I am or Om. Let's do that for a couple of minutes. Now let's step into the next technique, which is increasingly refining our consciousness. The next technique is very simple. You simply watch your breath as a neutral observer. So as you watch your breath, don't try to change anything. Don't try to slow it down. Don't try to hold it. Simply notice it. Let's do that for a couple of minutes. Let's now step into the next technique. We've been going subtler and subtler and subtler, and now we're ready for something super subtle. For the next couple of minutes, we're going to be in the state of pure beingness, which means that we're not going to be doing any technique, any practice. Instead, you're fully present, fully alive, simply being. Beautiful. In that state of pure beingness, you are awake. You are face to face, so to speak, with your true nature. There is a simple, clear seeing of what is there. Pure aliveness. No concepts, no ideas. Even if it is a momentary experience, you can build on that. Let's now step into the guided meditation. In this very relaxed and expansive state, we are in a state of tremendous openness. It's a state where things can happen. Quantum shifts in consciousness can just happen if you bring that openness and humility. Imagine now that we access the innermost chamber of your being. Imagine you set aside all the layers and layers of your being. You've gone through many doors, many portals, and now we are sitting in this innermost chamber. As we sit here in this very pristine, sacred space, we call upon the light of infinity. The very light that was the very first vibration that came into being. We call upon that light to be with us, to rekindle that knowing of our true nature, to help us remember, to help us reclaim our infinite nature, which was always known to our essence, because our essence is inseparable from this infinity. With the presence and blessings of light, we are reactivating that knowing of who we truly are. so that we will never again be confused by the outer layers of relative reality. So that we can have this beautiful, high quality connection with truth, the truth of our being. Let us feel that. Feel the light flooding your being. As the light floods your being, there is a upwelling of the knowing. Simply allow it. If you notice anything arising, any confusion, any fears, any doubts, anything at all, offer that into the light for transmutation. The light has infinite power. Release it into the light. So all that you're left with is truth, the ultimate truth. In this deep state, you can affirm, I am an infinite being of light. I am an infinite being of light. I am an infinite being of light. Feel that realization rippling through your being as every aspect of your being picks up on it and makes it its own. I am an infinite being of light. And you can feel within your heart a tremendous sense of joy, exhilaration, bliss, expansion, relief, and things that we don't even have words for. You can feel all that. Simply relax into that. Abide in that. I'm going to now be striking the bell 3 times. Let each of those be a reminder, going deep into your being. Going deep into your being, that I am an infinite being of light. And let that go deep within you. And as the sound of the bell fades away, let everything dissolve into light. Don't hold anything back. As the sound dissolves, you as a separate being dissolve, and all that is left is the magnificence of light. So you and I have dissolved into this infinite ocean of light. Notice how that feels within you to be the ocean. And now you can gently bring yourself back to a place where you are connected with your body and immediate physical reality. You could still maintain that same inner state, but simply get in touch with your breath, with your body. Maybe take a few deep breaths. Also a good time to drink some water. And I know we would probably want to just stay in this meditative state, many of us, and I would encourage you to do that.